Hello, hello, and welcome. This is Beverly Fells Jones, the Silver Fox of Consciousness. I am an author, speaker, seminar leader, hypnotist, podcaster, video creator, all those wonderful, great names. Today, I'm going to talk to you about things or something that has been in the news quite a bit, and that is about being an influencer, or being relevant or irrelevant. So, my favorite couple that I love to talk about have been called irrelevant over on that island across the ocean, and yet all they have to do, they don't even have to lift their heads out of Montecito Castle for something to be talked to them about. They were said, or the British media said, they would be irrelevant once they left as working members of the royal family. But how does somebody become irrelevant or relevant or an influence or influencer? How does that happen? Well, that's what I'm going to talk about today, is what's the difference between being an influencer and influential? That's what I need to know. Now, an influencer definition is one who exerts influence. I love these definitions that use the word that you're trying to find the definition for. A person who inspires or guides the actions of others, often specifically a person who is able to generate interest in something. When I was growing up, and after I got grown, I thought of a person who had influence as someone who could convince people to do things, or got the people to do things. As a YouTube channel creator, and as I mentioned, author and speaker, small business owner, I've been told that I have influenced people to change their life, help them make decisions, or just found what they wanted to pursue. So, I would consider myself to be a bit player in the world of influence. In the years before social media came on the scene, most of the people who were seen as a role model that people looked up to were created by four main entities: newspapers, then came movies and radio, and then television. Newspapers had the ability to make or break, and then break a person or entities. Let me say that again. Newspapers had the ability to make or break, or make then break a person or entity. They were very powerful. There was a movie called Citizen Kane with Orson Welles, and some of my older people here remember that, and those of you that are younger should find it. It's a black and white movie. I think it was made in the 40s or 50s, but it was about this powerful newspaper man and his life. But in that movie, it talked about the power he yielded as an owner of many newspapers, kind of like the Murdoch of today. Even a small town gazette had the ability to get a person elected to office, make the local diner a place to get, Aunt Patty's famous apple pie. Or they could choose to share the local gossip and ruin the reputation of the most honest, upstanding woman or man in town. Never crossed the editor. It was a perilous mistake. With the advent of movies came movie stars and PR for them. They used the newspapers to do that too. But also during that time, there was no television and there was some radio. But PR on that time was newsreels. And those newsreels would tell us about what was going on in the nation. It was used during the world wars to let people know what was going on and rally the troops, right? And they did celebrity gossip. Oh, there was one celebrity woman out of Hollywood, and people believed everything she wrote, and that she got the skinny and the gossip about who the stars were and what were going on. And there were several and many of these columnists across the country, but New York, Washington, LA were the important locations, and people would watch for those syndicated columns to see who was doing what with whom. Again, the very powerful people had the ability to build you up or to tear you down. Radio and television changed the balance of power, and the ability to create influential people was spread out across many platforms. Just by with the PR, right, that was given, a movie star became president of the United States. His persona was given in such a way in the movies, and as he was governor of California, and what was put out, campaign propaganda, let us say, got him elected to the presidency. The same kind of powerful machine allowed George Bush to win the election in '88 because he put out an advertisement that frightened people, and it was highly prejudiced. And I'm not going to talk about what that was. Just know that it influenced people to not vote for his opponent. So video can change people's minds. Television, radio, newsprint, newsletters were all designed that they could make or break you. Authors use promotional information to get their books sold. And back then, authors, they may have gone to Vanity Press and, printed their own book, but the likelihood of them selling even 100 books was nil to none, unless they had a good marketing and PR team behind them. That's why people wanted to be picked up by a publishing house, because the publishing house would do the advertisements. late 70s, 80s comes cable, and cable channels were created. And then we got 24-hour news during the Desert Storm War in the 90s. That's, so television became very strong. And then came social media. Well, not really social media, but the internet happened. And then there were forums and chat rooms and spaces, and the entire game of influence changed. We look at today and we think about what is happening with social media. Good things, bad things, people who love people and people who are just dealing with hate. And the hate campaign against Harry and Meghan has been the worst, the most devastating, the awfulest, if there's such a word, is awfulest thing that has ever been done in smear campaigns. Because now, back then, in the old days before social media, yeah, you paid for PR, but you didn't have a whole group of people writing about you all day, every day. There was not an internet thing where people could write something and then it gets shared and reshared on different platforms and different blogs. There was a time when if you dared to lie and to put people down, that you could be sued. You still can, but it's harder today because with social media, you have this thing where people are hiding behind avatars. They're finding ways, you can trace their IP addresses, but now people are finding ways to hide their IP addresses. So you can't find out who they are unless you're the FBI or the NSA or the CIA or MI6. They'll find out who it is. But the key here is the making or breaking of an influencer. Thankfully, and I am really grateful for the team of people who got together and said, this isn't right, and started their own channels and started tweeting and starting defending on other platforms the Sussexes. And therefore, the Sussex Squad was created. And through the concerted effort of so many people, they have been able to combat this nastiness. They have been able to combat the vitriol. I mean, it's a daily struggle, but it's being done. And what is, I just love this, is that the Sussex Squad is hated by those who have been trying to destroy Harry and Meghan, because it's not happening. And it has been so intense and so long that people are going, what are these people doing? People are waking up. And so just organically, the Sussex Squad has grown. But let's go back to this idea of being an influencer. Meghan wears something and it gets sold out. Harry speaks on a topic and people listen and they get involved. They together mention or go to some organization that needs help, who can deal and use donations, they get inundated. To me, that is influence. When Harry and Meghan talked on any of the podcasts, Teenage Therapy was a small channel. It exploded. These teenagers, it was a huge podcast after that. And many people subscribed and started listening. A lot of teenagers started listening. It's like all they have to do is say something, and the troops are there to support them. That's what I call influence. It's influence because we love them. It's influence because they are, for me, honest, integrity, loving, kind, caring, selfless. Yes, they're all of those things. They embody the attributes that I want to support, and thousands and millions of others want to support also. This is what you call influence. Okay, the owner of the Mavericks, Mark Cuban, said when the folks or the Rangers were saying, or the people were saying, oh, they leave the royal family and they stop being working roles, what are they going to do? They don't have any skills. They don't have anything to do. And Mark Cuban said, just let me have a piece. You know, can I get in touch with them? If they came on Shark Tank, they didn't even have to open their mouth. I'd say yes. He said all we have to do is we create a platform for them. We create products for them. We'd work with them because whatever they would do, he says, sells. And he said, and to me, that is influence. Now let me get back to this other piece of an influencer. Okay, because to me, there's a little difference. The influencer is someone who has the power to affect the purchasing decisions of others, his or her authority, knowledge, position, or relationship with his or her audience. They can have a distinct niche with whom he or she actively engages, and the size of the following depends on the size of his or her topic of the niche. It's important to note that these individuals aren't just marketing tools. They have a social relationship, and they have a brand, and they can achieve the idea of marketing and their marketing objective. Listen, here's a statistics from January 2019, We Are Social report. 3.484 billion people actively use social media. Okay, now let's get back to influence and influencers. So a lot of influencers have been in the news, but not in a good way, right? One was Gabby Petito. Never heard of the woman before. Never. She wasn't even in my radar, but she was an influencer that was murdered by her boyfriend during a trip. Well, as I was doing some research, here's another one. Influencer dead at 22 after final post. Right? It's like, what? I mean, another one, A Brazilian influencer reportedly killed by husband over post. Husband wanted in murder of influencer wife Alexis Sharkey down in Houston, Texas. Okay, so these are influencers that have been killed or died. Killed, and there's others who killed themselves. It's like, okay, this isn't the kind of influencer that I want to understand, but I bring them up because there's a lot of other people out there who are on social media, on Twitter, on Instagram, mostly Instagram and Facebook, but mostly Instagram and on YouTube, that are, showing their lives. Instagram, every place they go, they're taking a snapshot of their meal or snapshot of the beach or themselves in a new outfit or whatever, and they make calculated Instagram posts or tweets that get engagement. And that engagement allows companies to get in touch with them and say, "Where my dress? Where my clothes? Where my shoes? Try my." I watch a lot of gardening channels, and those who have a lot of members, they send them things to use in their gardens or whatever, to test. So they are influencers in this new social media era. But Meghan and Harry are different. I mean, they can sell stuff, but they're philanthropic. They have an influence that I don't think has been seen before. But how did they get there? Well, very simply, is because the British media wouldn't leave them alone, and they talked about them and talked about them and talked about them and talked about them and hated on them so much that they became a topic. They hated on them so much, and then came the Sussex Squad that loves on them so much. And the conversation, they're trending almost every day for some period of the day, whether it's negative or positive. And as a PR person told me once, all information, all media, publicity is good publicity, good or bad. In this case, yes, this is a hateful campaign, but it has allowed them to have a global following. They have global influence. Most people have a local influence, or they have a state influence, or they might have within their country influence. But globally, nah. I need to, Mother Teresa or Nelson Mandela or, even the UN General Secretary doesn't have the influence that Harry and Meghan have. And so think about your influence. I need to get back to you. You know that. Think about your influence and who you are influencing, because whatever you do every day, whenever you go out, people will look at you. Whatever you say, however you treat a waiter or a waitress or the person in the store, whether you are polite or impolite, somebody is being influenced by the way you behave. The way you treat your friends and your family dictates what kind of influencer you are. If you're always complaining, if you're always saying nothing ever goes right for you, nothing ever is good, nobody ever loves you, nothing, and always complaining, your influence is negative. Think about being a positive and being grateful for the things you have. Even if you don't have a lot, if you have a little, whatever little you have, concentrate on the fact that you're grateful for that. So, what kind of influencer do you want to be? Do you want to be a global? Well, yeah, maybe we would want to be global, right? No. Do you want to be local? Do you want to have a small niche of people who follow you and listen to you? Or do you just want to be the matriarch or the patriarch of your family? Just think about your influence. Because I was told once, a woman walked up to me and she says, "Oh, you are my role model." I'm going, huh? She said, "Yeah, because," and she listed several things that I had done that I had not paid any attention to. So that's why I tell you, even when you're not looking, somebody is looking. So let's keep up with the making sure that any negative information given about Harry and Meghan is countered by the positive and the truth about Harry and Meghan and any other person that you know that is being bullied, being put down. We need to be there to lift them up and to make sure that the record is clear and straight. Well, as always, I've been talking for a little while, but this is Beverly Fells Jones, and I'm glad you were here with me today. If you're a subscriber, thank you for being here. If you're not subscribed, please hit the subscribe button and the bell so that you'll be notified whenever I decide to upload another video. So as you have believed, let it be done to you, and it is so, and I will see you in the next video.